Okay. Again, I sort of apologize. This was supposed to be up yesterday, but it just didn't get there. It's Saturday on the East Coast here around 5 o'clock. So let's wrap up week 2 and start into week 3. Okay. Um, First, I thought you did a great job on the forums this week. The discussion forum leaders, too, were also very good. Remember, to get full credit, you need to write a final summary post at the bottom of each of your discussion forums for which you were the leader. Okay? Um, so there were 4 main things that we did in week 2, right? One was we took a close look at the Tri-City Academy and its, I guess, revenues and expenses for 4 months there. And there were 3 things that we were hoping to get out of this exercise. One is in the first week, we talked about the importance of establishing an approximate liquidity target. It's great to establish one, but then you have to really be watching your cash flow in and out. And so the first thing that the Tri-City assignment was to help you do was to emphasize that you have to be watching your money all the time, because the answer to that assignment, right, is that they went deep in the hole cash-wise in the 4 months that we have data for, right? The second thing we were trying to accomplish is just to give you some exposure to Excel or any other sort of spreadsheet. Um, it is Excel is the one we use. That's what most people use, but um, a number spreadsheet that's electronic and can do some of the mathematics for you and can help you do sort of what if scenarios that we'll look at a little future on further in the course is incredibly useful. So I hope that all of you have a little bit of exposure to Excel, can use it as a tool to help you think about your finances, help you keep the numbers in the right order, add it up properly, etc., etc. So that's the second thing we were trying to do with the assignment. And just to backtrack, one of your fellow students, and I can't remember off the top of my head who it was, said they were an expert in it and used it all the time. So if you have questions, you can use your fellow student as a resource, or talk to me as well. And the third thing, and this was maybe the most important thing that we accomplished looking at the Tri-City case study, is to begin looking deeper into the numbers, not just to find out what the uh, quantitative number is. What's the word here? The dollar amount, right? In specific accounts and categories, but rather to begin looking at the financial story and the operational and organizational story that financial data can tell you. Okay, and in the first 3 discussion forum questions, I think you did a great job of digging down and uh, trying to see what the stories are that were told by the numbers themselves. And it's true we only had 4 months of data, so you can't really make wide sweeping judgments on those different types of stories. But as we go on in the course, uh, you'll be getting more data uh, in the various case studies we're going to be looking at, and you'll be learning about it. You'll be learning additional tools to help you uh, analyze, uncover the stories that are hidden within the financial numbers. And so you had a great start at it this week, and we'll continue developing that skill as we move through the course. Okay. Let's see, the second thing that we did this week was to think about the organizational structure that needs to be in place in order for you to make good financial decisions. Okay, this is really, really important and is often overlooked in a finance course because, well, finance is about numbers, isn't it? Well, no. Finance is really about using numbers to make good financial decisions. And so the process and the people you involve in that decision-making process is really can't be stressed enough. And so um, in Zietlow's chapter there, he talks about the various people who need to be involved in decision making. We talk about the board, the ED, obviously, the CFO, the controller, the auditor, and often left out, your senior management team, right? All of these people can be legally held responsible for the consequences of your financial decision making. And so um, you owe it to them as an executive director to make sure that they're informed and included in the decision-making process. Beyond just the legal aspect, what's really important is why aren't you using the expertise that you have on your team? If you're just sitting in the corner office making decisions by yourself, you're going to screw up. Uh, Two heads are better than one, as Joni Mitchell used to say. Okay, who's Joni Mitchell? All right, sorry, I'm an old dinosaur. She was a fabulous, fabulous sort of folk rock jazz singer during the 60s, 70s, and into the 80s. Fabulous, fabulous. Okay. Um, okay, and then the third thing we tried to do in week 3 was to acquire a common vocabulary as it relates to accounting categories and individual accounting accounts. If we're going to be trying to convey and discuss financial data and strategies, and finally, to justify a financial decision, we're going to have to be able to use terms that allow us to convey clearly and concisely what's going on in the organization and why we're making the decisions we are making. So we need a common language. So we had to learn some accounting terms, and hopefully we've all done that this week. Um, yeah, okay. And so the fourth thing that we talked about this week um, is how financial decision making and financial strategies have to be linked to and intertwined, complementary of, synergistically involved with your organization's overall strategy and mission, right? We can quickly say, and that's why there was a question about strategic planning, and Zietlow goes into that a little bit in his chapters. But the point here is that we can easily say no money, no mission. Okay, meaning if you don't have any money, you can't pursue your mission. But it's also sort of the other way around too. It can be um, all money and no mission. And I have a little saying here. It says, a nonprofit that makes money without reference to its mission is an oxymoron. Because frankly, you're not a nonprofit anymore. You're just out there trying to make money. You're a for-profit company. So this is really a critical um, understanding to have. And as we go through the course more, you'll see where, and case studies, the case studies we're going to look at, you will see where EDs and organizations have blindly pursued mission and didn't think about the financial implications of that, and or made financial decisions that got them into hot water operationally and organizationally. So the two, financial decision making and organizational strategy, and particularly operational strategies, man, they have to be like this. And if they're not like this, you're going to screw up. Okay? All right. I think that's enough of week 2 rather. Let's go to week 3. Um, and in week 3, the main thing that we're going to talk about is how individual accounts and the larger accounting categories get rolled up into financial statements. Okay, and there are three main financial statements. One is the statement of financial position, and this essentially compares assets, what we own, versus the liabilities that we owe to see what our net worth is, right? Um, Using the right jargon, we don't talk about net worth in this statement. We talk about net assets. So assets minus liabilities equal net assets, right? Okay, the second financial statement is the statement of activities, and this is essentially comparing your revenues, right? The dollar value of what's earned minus liabilities, the dollar values. Uh, no, I'm sorry. Revenues is we compare revenues, the dollar value of what we earn, versus expenses, the dollar value of what we spend to get net assets. Net assets. I thought you said net assets were up in the statement of financial position. Well, we use the term twice to mean slightly different things, but you can think about it this way. In the statement of activities, revenues minus expenses equals a profit or a loss. And that profit and a loss, which in nonprofit world we call net assets, relate then back to your wealth, the net assets that are spoken of in the statement of financial position. Okay, we have an assignment this week that'll help you make those connections, but I just wanted to highlight that there. The third statement is the statement of is the statement of cash flow, and this essentially identifies the amount of cash you had at the beginning of the period, sometimes called time one, to the amount of cash you had at the end of the period, sometimes called time two. And so it compares how you're doing on your cash, and it also explains then what transactions and well, how you used your money. If you had a lot of money up here and not so much money at the end of the period, where did all that money go? Conversely, if you had no money at the beginning of the period and at the end of the period have a lot of cash, how did you accumulate it all? So it kind of explains how and why the cash changes from the beginning of the period to the end of the period. Okay? So those are the three financial statements that we're going to be really focusing on this week. The other thing just to highlight here is there's a PowerPoint that talks about the Oceanside nursing home. And this PowerPoint is there, and the case study is there to show you that if you don't know accounting, if you don't keep your record keeping accurately, you're going to be way off on what you think your company is making and how much wealth you have. Okay, this goes back to some discussions we had this week about how do you actually record some transactions. And I tried to say, this is not an accounting course. You don't have to worry about where the numbers go and how you record some certain transactions. This is an example of, and the point there being is that you hire your accountant to make sure that the information they're giving you is correct. And all then you have to do is use that information to make good financial decisions. Okay, that's the gist here. So in this case study with Oceanside Nursing Home, essentially the EDs don't know accounting. They don't have somebody on their staff who knows accounting, And so they are incorrectly recording different transactions, and they think they have lots of money. They think they're making big profits, but when they go to the bank for a loan, the bank looks at the financial record keeping and says, you're making all these mistakes, and it changes dramatically their profit and losses that are recorded on the statement of financial activity or the statement of activity, and it also changes the amount of wealth that they actually have. It changes their net assets in the statement of financial position. Okay, and so I don't expect people to be able to necessarily follow. Uh, well, I hope you can follow uh, what's happening and the corrections that are made in the financial statements as the posting and the recording of transactions is made. The corrections are made to the errors, but I don't really expect you to uh, have said, "Oh yeah, I know that error. It would have meant this, this, and this, and this," because that's what an accountant does. Whew, I'm getting long-winded here. The point is simply make sure that if you don't know accounting, you have somebody on your staff that does. Otherwise, you're going to be making financial decisions based on lousy, inaccurate financial information. And if you're making financial decisions on lousy information and false information, your decisions are going to be all screwed up. Okay? All right, then just lastly, we do have individual phone calls this week. Uh, these are simply for me to check in with you, for you to check in with me, see how the course is going, if you have real concerns, whatever it is. Um, and since I don't know any of you, I haven't talked to you before, uh, I look forward to them as a way of just getting to know you a little better and also to make sure that the course is going okay for you. All right? All right. I've talked way too much today. Sorry. I will be correcting this week's assignments either later tonight or tomorrow morning. And I'll be uh, really uh, putting grades in for the week 1 posting and hopefully for week 2 as well. Okay? All right. Bye bye.